vaccine card, calling into question his eligibility for the season. There's also still some domestic assault allegations from his estranged wife, and currently he is being listed as a non-roster player for the Sharks. The NBA will return a week from tonight, that is October 19th, with a doubleheader featuring the Nets against the Bucks and the Warriors against the Lakers. The Nets, Bucks, and Lakers are all considered title contenders entering the season, and the Warriors could join that group if their stars with Draymond Green and Klay Thompson and Steph Curry stay healthy to lead the rest of that roster that has some good vets and some young guys that are still developing. If they can find a way to mesh that, then the Warriors could be in good shape. Everybody else will start next week on Wednesday on October 20th. I'm a little intrigued by the Bulls and Pistons matchup, not just because I'm a Pistons fan, but they're two young teams trying to rebuild their franchises, and if you can see the game, it would be a good collection of young talent in the league. It's also the debut of number 1 overall pick, Cade Cunningham for Detroit. That is if he's back from the ankle injury, which I would hope he is. It didn't sound like a severe injury or anything. The Celtics and Knicks will also meet in what could be a potential playoff preview for middle seeding in the Eastern Conference. The Knicks made a lot of great strides last year, breaking a playoff drought, and it was a really big breakout year for Julius Randle. Now they've gotten him some help, so he doesn't have to be the number 1, and he can be more of that complementary star that he's better suited for. Whereas the Celtics flopped during the playoffs and the season last year. It was disappointment, and made a change and promoted Brad Stevens up to general manager from the head coaching position. And they've made some interesting signings, to say the least, with Dennis Schroeder and a few other guys. But these teams look very, very different than a couple years ago, and I think New York has probably jumped ahead of Boston, at least based off of last season. Also, 2 of the top teams in the West will play on Wednesday when Denver goes to Phoenix. Both teams are textbook examples of recent rebuilding becoming success, and Denver has built up a young core of guys that they got with not only first-round draft picks, but second-round draft picks, free agents, trades, undrafted free agents. And, Denver's consistently competing for a top 3 seeding in the West. They've been at least to the Western semis the last 2 or 3 years. And Phoenix came out of nowhere to go to the NBA Finals last year. Looked like a new team. They bring everybody back. DeAndre Ayton's taking a step up. Devin Booker's an absolute stud. We know that. Chris Paul's leading them. He's got those young guards like Cameron Payne right behind him, learning his hip pocket, just becoming better and better by the day. So it should be a good matchup. I would expect both teams to be in the playoffs this year. In the East, I would be watching Philly, who made some improvements. They were the number 1 seed in the East anyway last year. New York, like I said, Brooklyn, Boston, Milwaukee, Indiana, Charlotte, Atlanta, and obviously Miami, who might be the most improved team in the NBA and will be gunning for at least a top 3 seed, maybe even the number 1 seed out in the East. The Hornets were the one team in that list that did not make the playoffs last year. They lost in the play-in bubble tournament, whatever you want to call it. I think they got a really great young core with Miles Bridges and LaMelo Ball. They were just so close last year that you feel like they got to get over the hump. So any improvement should help them become more of a playoff contender out there. In the West, obviously you have the Lakers, the Warriors, if they can get back to their play from a few years ago, the Clippers, the Jazz, the Suns, and the Nuggets. The rest of the field, not a lot of spots left, but could be up for grabs. Dallas still has pretty much the same team as last year. Their only real offseason move was, they made some small ones, yes, but their only real legitimate offseason move was signing Luka to that max extension, and now they are pretty much the same team as last year, so I don't know how you can expect that to be much better. I mean, obviously they're going to improve as some of the players improve, but that's not exactly an exponential improvement. Portland could be fading out. They fired Terry Stotts over the offseason and hired Chauncey Billups as their new coach. They still have the talent, but new coach, new philosophies, whatever, would keep them from being a complete lock. Memphis is up and coming and has maybe the best young core in the NBA. They've done a great job rebuilding, and they were impressive in the playoffs last year and may be ready to take the next step. The rest of the teams in the West, honestly, as I see it right now, aren't really in the same zip code as the teams that will be competing. So I believe that's about 9 teams for 8 spots in each conference. So we'll see what happens with that. As far as NBA player news, there have been updated developments in the Ben Simmons and Kyrie Irving situations. For Simmons and Philly, it's good news. He is reported to preseason camp, took a COVID test at the arena the other night, and reported it team activities after demanding a trade and threatening to sit the season out. So it's a good situation there for now. The team gets a leader back. He gets to play, and if he still wants to be traded, which I think he does, it would improve his trade value much more than if he were to sit out and just wait for a trade to happen. So I think it's a good move all around. For Kyrie Irving, it's not really good news. I mean, he's not unhealthy or anything. There's no catastrophic, season-ending injury with him or anything. But the rules in New York, you need to be vaccinated to be able to play or practice. And Kyrie is not vaccinated. General Manager Sean Marks has said that he will not allow Kyrie Irving near the team until he complies with those regulations. And, while it's a loss in some form because Kyrie is a very talented and good player, the roster is talented enough to make up for his absence. He may be a star, but he's a complimentary star. He's not the main attraction. The only issue I see is, when he eventually comes back, you got to hope that his time away from the team hasn't brought any bad blood or anything and doesn't have a negative effect on the camaraderie and how the team plays as a result from him being away from the team, however long that may be. So that is all for this episode of the Travis on Sports podcast. You can find us right here on Spreaker or on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the Travis on Sports YouTube channel, and our Facebook and Twitter pages that have been recently created and posted. I will be back with more sports news next week. Until then, thanks for listening, and I will see you next time.